Hey guys, this is Squid Bear joining with Scott Meyer
Live
for one,
on
actually our
Discord.
first collaboration and he helped doing the editing on my last video, but before the last video, of course. And today we're celebrating the 5th anniversary of My Hero Academia and the 100th episode of My Hero Academia, and we are 3 days late. We are 3 days late. I am sorry if we are, but. And we are also doing a double review of the first episode of Invincible, which we both watched together. We both watched together
I
today.
mean, we could have caught up with the rest of the Invincible show, but Brooke said we're gonna do some other things later, comparing My Hero Academia with Invincible later on down the line. So this should be
We're
fun.
just talking about these two episodes, one verse and 1 second, and just to talk about them, and then we'll talk about Invincible on a later date. Like we'll talk about like the how it compares to My Hero Academia and other superhero shows.
Alright, it's interesting you bring them up because now that I'm thinking about it, both of these shows have a very interesting method of enriching the superhero genre while giving a new little spin on it, as it were. Now, both of them can be formulaic in their own different ways, but they'll be in for a few surprises. That's what I've noticed about these shows so far.
And but I've heard that the first episode is like that, but the rest of the episode is not anything like that. It's like completely like it's not formulaic. It's not what you think it is. It is completely going in a new direction, and that's what I cannot wait for us to see in the days coming.
Hmm. So, talking about My Hero Academia, do we just like talk about the whole show building up to the 100th episode, or are we gonna do the individual
Yeah, we
episodes?
can do that. We can do that. So, you know, I had love at first sight with My Hero Academia. It was like love at first sight. It was like, and also, I feel like that it really connected to me and to my life, and I already explained how it did on another episode or another video, how it connects to me, and I really do love the show, even though I have learned from Avatar Airbender, and I've learned from a long time to never be biased to anything, even if you love it so much. So I can fully like even critique what I love, and that's what some people decide to do. So I do understand that there are some cliches and tropes and stuff on My Academia, like it's very basically similar to Peter Parker, like.
If Peter Parker had Superman's powers.
No, actually, not just Superman's powers, but a ton of powers, a ton of like multiple powers.
Multiple powers at
But
once.
here's the thing, yeah. But the one thing that gives it nuance, the one thing that I'll defend that gives it so much nuance is that the hero, instead of getting a power by accident or being born with it, like everyone in the show was born with it, he had to earn it. He had to actually do work in order to earn it. And that's the nuance that came with My Academia. That's what's so nuanced that no one talks about. That I'm the only one who talks about it. Why is that? Why is that? Why is am I the only one who talks about that?
Well, you're not alone. I'm going to be talking about it as well. So, what I've noticed about Deku is that if you look past that initial archetype, you'll see the hard-working, compassionate young man that is Deku. Um, and
Asuka Midoriya. Asuka Midoriya.
Izuku
That's
Midoriya, yeah.
Deku's.
Deku was the name he chose for himself, which a lot of people thought was
And
odd.
Deku also is the name of the Deku tree from Legend of Zelda, just to be in geek.
Haha! Alright, note to self, toss Izuku Midoriya at people if I want to knock them temporarily unconscious. Or stunned, rather. So yes, he, hard worker, they established in the show that almost everyone is born with a quirk, with a few exceptions, and Deku, despite aspiring to be a hero, unfortunately doesn't really get the any kind of quirk at all. He gets bullied, and he's pretty smart in picking up on what other superheroes are capable of. So you already see he's like Po from Kung Fu Panda picking up on the specific people, their powers, and what they're capable of, and he goes even further beyond Plus Ultra with the tactics they would use. So he has his role model named All Might, and doesn't quite catch his attention in the first episode, but he does something in episode 2 which really catches All Might's attention enough to train him and then see if he's worthy to pass on the quirk. And it's after the hard work at that your favorite scene, the beach scene. That's where All Might's so like, yeah, I'm giving my power to this kid, right?
Yeah, but here's the thing: with the first,
yeah. So yeah, you can definitely see that he's a pretty hard worker, and I find it fascinating. I was engaged with My Hero Academia because Deku was a very engaging protagonist, and especially what he had to overcome. This might be somewhat going away in the later seasons, but especially in like the first 4 seasons from so far. I mean, we've only seen like the first half of season 5. That was more or less like training for what he's done. But then again, there was something that happened. So anyway, get to the point, Callum. There's always something to overcome, and usually if it's really kind of archetypal, I would think, oh, he's gonna overcome this, no bother. But somehow they always manage to find a way for me to think, is he gonna do this? Oh no, he has high chances of failing. Like every single obstacle that it gets in Deku's way, like there are high chances of failure. The first entry exam to get into the hero course, he is pathetic compared to all the other heroes, and the biggest robot he could face was worth 0 points for some freaking reason, but he still managed to pass because of his compassion.
I think the reason why it was worth 0 points is because the point was saving people instead of fighting them.
Right, got it. That's what it was. But he did save a person. So that got him the points to get it. Especially it was basically his virtues. He keeps has at deals. Anyway, and so much more that eventually got him onto the course, and even like training, you think, okay, he's got this cool power, but he can only, it's a one-shot thing due to getting used to how powerful it is. So multiple times he's trying to restrain himself, or so on and so forth. Some of the teachers have to cancel his abilities before he goes too far, or sometimes he'll think, I actually got a hit, but then he hits someone who's much tougher, or during the tournament he'll think, okay, I could do one shot on multiple body parts, but if I do it all, I'm going back to the hospital. And so it continues on. Even as Deku gets stronger, even to the point where you'd think he's handling his quirks. Like even recently in season 5, something new came up, and it almost seemed unbearable for him to handle. So, sure, you could say that, it's the people around who have influenced him, but you got to remember that he's the one who has to not only carry out these powers, but also carry out these the ideals that he holds quite firm. And he also learns, okay, if I can't fully be like All Might, but I could certainly take inspiration from him and then adapt to the shoot style. He, thinking back to the show, he certainly doesn't really want to be a hero for the sake of glam and glory, which was Stain's whole philosophy of, if you're doing heroism for fame and glory, I'm killing you, but if you're doing this heroism for good virtues, I'm gonna spare your life. So he had good enough virtues to be rescued by Stain of all people, and he's adapted to learn, and he's pretty smart as well. That much was established earlier on, and even going as far as the Heroes Rising, he is willing to go so far to save the day. He'd be willing to give up his powers and pass them on to someone who is basically his rival, now turned arch frenemy, in order to save the day. He would risk that. he'd be fully willing to give it away. So yeah, this kid's very virtuous. I'm really well. He's earned it. He's earned it. I heard other people say like the Japanese have recently got into the superb trend of having these protagonists who've earned it. Basically, I heard someone else compare like Deku and as well as Tanjiro from Demon Slayer, who had a similar journey to Deku, and starting from somewhat of a bystander to finding himself in a scenario, even though for Tanjiro it was a bit more forced, but rightfully so. His own family member got turned into a demon. But he had his ideals and he worked hard for his position. So yeah, take a note, people. If you want to make engaging protagonists, make them work hard. I feel like I'm turning into Jordan Peterson in one of his lectures all of a sudden, something like that.
Yeah, I agree. And also, just to be off topic, that's why compare it to like Star Wars, where like they have like characters for the Force, like who you have to earn it in order to actually master it. And but in the Disney trilogy, they don't understand this, so they basically decide if you have the Force powers, you can basically do anything you want without even working hard for it, or even like having difficulties with it, or it's like completely like okay, it's like completely flawless. You're flawless with it.
I mean, aside from the occasional character drama dilemma that they have, like Rey not wanting to go through with being a Jedi at first because she's scared. Like, aside from scenes like that, yeah, they're pretty much OP at everything.
Okay, let's get back to topic. Okay, let's compare it to Invincible. So, with the first episode in mind, we've seen that, well, this Mark Grayson, he gets his powers inherited from his father. He did not work hard for, but he has to master it like Deku. But he does master it in. I don't think he like. I think he does master it in one episode. Does he master it?
Well, I'd say he's. I mean, this episode could have been like this is the kind of episode that could have been like an entire arc if it was My Hero Academia. But this is a different form of storytelling. So I've noticed this as well. There are some stories where they cut the cheese, as it were, and get to the point where they have a certain power position so that they can get on with telling this next specific part of the story. I noticed that with like the first episode of Death Note, for example. You'd think, okay, maybe they're gonna go through an arc where Light Yagami is thinking through, okay, how is he gonna get the mentality of a sociopath over time? No, in one episode, they go from bystander to a worldwide killer in an episode, and they do a good job with building his character just enough with certain symbolism and talks about justice for him to think, yeah, if given the circumstance of being tempted to use such a lethal thing, yeah, it actually makes sense for him to go from that point to that point. So they're doing the same thing here. Like, okay, here's the son of basically a Superman spin-off. Sorry, but that's what it is.
And let's still continue about how people learn from how people like learn and then grow from that, and then get to the part where shit gets crazy.
Yeah.
So another comparison between about growing from in Avatar: Last Airbender, I feel like that compared to like. I mean, I feel it's definitely better than Ray, like learning basically practically everything. It definitely does get down that you have to learn this, even though it takes years and years. But you have to do it in a couple months. So you have to like, but since you're the Avatar, so it's gonna be easier for you. So yeah, yeah. You know what? Why didn't they just let them practice years and years the training. I guess they wanted to appeal to children by having a child character still as the
I mean,
protagonist.
to be fair, Avatar did have like several episodes dedicated to like learning a specific way of like bending. I think there was like an episode dedicated to Aang learning how to earth bend, with like Toph telling Aang off for being a bit of a wuss. Um, um, and there was some subtle elements that, okay, you can cut corners to learn other craft. Like that one time he tried practicing firebending only to accidentally almost burn someone.
And then, but guess what? There's no consequences in that show,
No
so that
consequences.
person's perfectly fine because she can heal herself with the water.
Yes.
No consequences at all in that show.
Yes.
But okay, let's get to like the meat of Invincible. Like at the end, Omni-Man goes batshit insane and literally kills the rest of the heroes in the entire, and it is go full Mortal Kombat like shit right here. Like they literally like basically like crushes someone's entire face, slits their entire entire head off. Literally snaps their neck backwards and literally, and then like
Yeah. It's such a wild contrast. Like, J.K. Simmons, have you been letting your whiplash roll get to you again? I mean, he seemed like a very gentle guy. Just wanting to teach
Imagine if All Might did that. Imagine if All Might did that.
my days. Just going beyond. Plus ultra. Oh my days.
No, going murder and innocent killer. I'm calling it innocent killer instead of murder. Just innocent killer.
Anyway, so yes, this is such a big contrast. Like, basically, this whole thing was like superhero. There's nothing really too new from the first 40 or so minutes into this episode. With the exception of just some quirks, like oh, we're adult, oh, we can like talk about use this crude language, or we got some stylized violence, and obviously you got various.
And also, we can talk about homosexuality. So
Yeah, just people just using those kind of insults, or yeah, not just like that. They're talking about homosexuality, talking about sex, talking about even like casual talk on other things. So yeah, in that regard, it's a bit more adult, just because they talk about some vulgar things and some other things that's not really meant for little children, but they do have a bit of drama as well. So apart from that, there's nothing too new under the sun, as it were, here.
Until the last, like, 3 minutes.
Yeah.
That's where the show is gonna probably leave you on that note and know that this isn't your baby superhero. This is we're gonna be like more combat style superhero. We're gonna like actually like hold you, and then we're gonna screw with you.
Yeah, basically, first 40 minutes, as generic plot as you could get. Last few minutes, main superhero guy turns on the others in the most brutal way possible. What?
That's showing that this is gonna be like The Boys. This is gonna be like an anime version of, so anime like The Boys, you know.
I will say, yeah, like everyone else, that caught me off guard. I mean, I knew this was rated 18 and it was gonna be excessively violent, but I was not it wasn't just the violence that shocked me. It was the fact that Omni-Man, this person who was such a gentle, such a seemingly great role model, just suddenly just beat the snot and blood daylights out of his own teammates. Just such a turnaround. What the heck? That's like if it's like if you get
Actually, Superman in the other in Injustice actually was evil, but that was another universe. This is the universe. This is the same universe. This is one universe. This is the hero, and he literally kills his own teammates.
And something I need to say about excessive blood and gore, like, usually, people in this sort of adult entertainment region usually love to use, like, excessive blood and gore, especially if it's in a horror religion themed. Something about blood and gore is, like, if you use it, like, something about blood and gore and violence is that if you're using it for a story and just use it excessively throughout your whole story, then your audience becomes kind of numb to it. It just becomes more like a rave party more than anything deliberately shocking when you overuse it. When I see, although when excessive like blood and violence is used rarely and during key dramatic moments, like whoa, that will really increase the shock value and that will make that even more impactful. Like I could obviously this scene counts, but another example I can think of.
Let me say that Mortal Kombat, for example, like Scorpion's Revenge. Like it starts out pretty like with a father and son like bonding together over Scorpion, and then when it gets to like the whole village being murdered, then it goes for like I dare say it's bloodier than it's bloodier than what we just saw. It's bloodier than
Another example I can think of is like season 5 of Samurai Jack. I mean, all throughout the show, even in season 5, like Jack's like cutting up robots and whatnot, weird aliens, to save the kid.
even aliens have blood, you know?
Yeah. Or you know, some kind of weird creature or something like that. We never saw like anything excessively traumatizing, but they set up the story in season 5 where Jack's at his lowest point in his journey, and we already get some shocking imagery with the way the daughters of Aku were raised. But going to the topic of like blood and gore, we remember Jack's been like killing like robots and inhuman things this whole time. So we get to a point where he's surrounded by these human assassins. He's running for dear life. He finds himself cornered. He fights them off, and his mentality, okay, I'm gonna finish him off. He gets one at advantage. Hooyah! And then just slitting the throat. I remember watching that the first time, just going, oh, gross. So yeah, that was, they deliberately did it like that because, the blood shows, oh, shoot, she's human, and I just killed a human. Jax got wounded, and there's even like fairly creepy image using the blood in the next episode. We hardly ever see excessive blood and violence outside of like episodes 2 and 3 of season 5, but it's enough to shock you. That's the kind of thing I want to see. If you're going to use excessive blood and violence, do it, make it count. Don't just use it excessively, because that way people will just get numb to it. Use it at the best point to really make a punch. Yeah, that's what they did here.
Yes.
It really catches you off guard. Yes.
So we just compared. We basically went through Macadamia and like Invincible and comparing them to other stuff and like comparing themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to say one thing about excessive violence in My Academia. People think it's a kid's show. I once heard that a guy said that Avatar the Serpent is for all ages. Well, My Academia is for 10-year-olds and adults, I guess. But in season 4, Overhaul literally like tears the guy's torso off.
That's right. Yes. There was also.
I mean, they build up how bloody they are. For every season they build up like blood, and then in the and I wonder what they're gonna do for the 5th season, next arc.
There's also like fights like All Might versus All For One, where the fight is so intense, blood streaks are like streaming down some of their faces. So that's another good example of using it where it counts.
Mm-hmm. So, is that all we have, or do we have more?
There's some more we can talk about. Comparing the show My Hero Academia itself to what we've seen so far with Invincible. Now, it's too early for me to say because I haven't seen all of Invincible. But I'm doing everybody.
Okay, now cut that out. Cut that out.
Yeah, got it. Both of them have, like I said before, certain trends, but then they take their own new spin on it. My Hero Academia, the concept of a superhero high school is nothing new. You could see it in like Disney's Sky High. You could even go as far back as like Peter Parker himself.
And X-Men. And actually, I once heard a guy said, is this really superhero when literally in Peter Parker was a superhero high schooler. And also X-Men had high school in it too. Even though basically that it was just it had a school in it, and the X-Men weren't high schoolers, even though some of them were. But I really don't understand how people don't think this is genuinely superhero. About One Punch Man, that's up for debate. But I feel like that My Academia is genuinely a superhero show. And I feel like that there are Japanese superheroes, like, Super Senpai, which got turned to Power Rangers, which I grew up with too. But I think it's very different from that kind of superhero, because they don't turn into a giant mech and then just destroy a giant monster.
Unless there's some superhero in the world who can turn into a mech. That's possible. You have a superhero who's
possible. I know.
You have a superhero who's a comic book. I'm not making that up.
And some people we actually saw this picture of how Invincible is so much better than My Academia because it has so many other possibilities, but you really have an entire planet of possibilities.
With My Hero Academia, it's this entire superhero society, so there's some interesting. It's not just, oh, cool, look at that. They also delve into some interesting questions about, okay, if we have this whole society where mostly everyone has superpowers, how do we ought to live? Like, the villain Stain, even though he's a side villain, really challenges the society of, well, if you're doing this just for fame and fortune, then you shouldn't really be called a hero in the first place. But if you're doing this...
Excuse me, I have one thing. If Stain was in the world of Avatar and he knew that he was basically, like going around, like, while the war was going on, and basically was like going on Kyoshi Island, hanging out with those girls, he would think he's a fame-hungry celebrity, and he would kill him.
Ooh.
I went deep. I went down on that.
Yeah, there is some interesting speculation on that character alone. Like, what would happen if Stain was in the One Punch Man world? Like, most of the hero organization would be dead in his eyes, except for people like Saitama, who does it for fun and for...
And don't forget, in Avatar, one more. Katara literally murdering some petty girls just because they called her friend a clown, and then basically doing nothing about that. Basically, just not acknowledging it. I'm sorry if I got a lot off topic, but
yeah. There's some questions like that. I mean, Stain's the best example, if you ask me, but there's also certain character development and arcs and the struggles that they go through. In fact, one could argue that My Hero Academia is more of a character-centered story, which I always find kind of a bit odd because aren't all stories like that anyway. But yeah, character does certainly take the focus in this particular story, so they do their best to make every character identifiable, and they do a great job with giving these characters, some interesting personalities, and even have some be interesting enough to warrant some of their own stories and their own struggles that coincide with the story.
I have one thing to say also about, remember that Invincible thing that I showed you? They said that every hero has a backstory. Well, every person in my opinion has a backstory too, which they spent throughout the entire show going through everyone's backstory. Like, screw you, man. Screw you.
Do you have any idea of how many times My Hero Academia does flashbacks? I don't think I could think of, I mean, like, either like 1 or 2 episodes where they don't have at least one flashback.
That's an anime trope. It's an anime trope. They have always
So it
flashbacks.
is.
It's like
So it is. But
anime
they,
trope.
they even repeat some particular flashbacks.
Yeah, I don't like that particularly either, but I'm just like,
I mean, like you said, it is a trend. I mean, My Hero Academia is far from the only one to do that sort of thing. I mean, Violet Evergarden does that to some extent as well. But there certainly are backstories, and apparently there's some like spin-off manga stories about
vigilantes. And actually, I one time saw this article that was totally BS, but did have a good point that My Academia Vigilantes is good to read. And I read a bit of it, and it's pretty good. And I have seen, like, it does actually explore the stories of some of the teachers from, like, My Academia. Like, Mr. Aizawa explores his backstory, and it doesn't explore but I really think that now that I'm not biased in my acting, I don't know if Vigilantes is better because I have read it in actually the hero in that story says no, I don't want to be a superhero, even though he always wanted to be a superhero, and then he says, okay, I'll be a superhero, just like that. So how is it better?
No, that just that. So yeah, there's another interesting point to be made about that kind of thing. There's even some other side stories like where they interact with other.
Are people like that actually? Do people actually want that as a hero? Are people like so desperate, so like pathetic to actually like that as a hero? I have less faith in society.
Yes, society can be very
If
problematic.
more people like Deku, then I have more faith in society, or more because I'm like staying at this point.
I was gonna make a Tommy Wiseau joke of like, if everyone was Deku, the world would be a better place to live. But maybe, what if everyone was a mixture of Deku and Stain? Huh. Now that would make for an intriguingly strict society.
Actually, it would kind of be totalitarianism. But if everyone was like Deku, then it would basically be like everyone would follow Christianity, and everyone would follow, more. Everyone would, everyone follow what they think is good, or more judgment, and actually believe in that.
Yeah. Even helping each other to the point of self-sacrifice at times. So yes, My Hero Academia does have a structure, but it does give enough spins and enough interesting delves into characters and some ideas about a superhero society that it invests you. So, and it carries you with you throughout the whole story, and it's a great long-running show for it. It's got a story that's still ongoing, and I heard that this show is going to last up to about 8 seasons, and I think the creator of the manga has completed the series.
Yes, actually, and I've seen art of what the series looks like at the end, and Deku is going to be very different from he was at the beginning. Very different. It's going to be very like he's actually going to be like Logan from Logan.
An old man Deku. I'm trying to think of a title, or just just Izuku.
I think this is gonna be like the better version of Logan.
Right, just
like the better.
Just title it Izuku, and just someone Photoshop like Deku doing Logan posts with like a few blood stains, and replace the little girl with Eri.
I know, that's what I was about to say. Like X-23 is basically Eri, and like Overhaul is basically the guy with the robotic arm, trying to.
Yeah, Overhaul. Yes. Come on, Eri. You go back to there using your reverse powers. No.
I'm sorry if I was interrupting, but I just that.
And we're down. We go.
Okay.
So yeah, that's My
Okay.
Hero Academia. It's yeah, it has this structure at first, but it has enough unique spins on it to stand out. Even standing tall with the MCU and
That's a
uh,
bold statement right there.
yeah, because it does have some similarities with the MCU. There's a large cast of characters. It's set in this where like superpowers is almost the norm, and yes,
Actually, a lot of people compare um they compare Shigezaki to Thanos. I heard one person compare, and they actually are quite similar. Even though I think that comic book Thanos is more like All for One, and MCU Thanos is more like basically actually more like a complex version of Thanos, or and Shigezaki's is more like MCU Thanos.
now you've got me thinking about Shigaraki wearing the Infinity Gauntlet on his face.
Oh, there's actually an art where actually he had the Infinity Gauntlet, where he actually had it on his like he actually like
Wow.
Rocky Chigasaki, overhaul.
Oh, him too, right.
You should have
Yeah,
aimed for the head, kid.
that was pretty good. That was pretty good.
Yeah, that's one of the better impressions that I can do. um, um,
Let's talk about the villains. Let's talk about the villains.
mm, interesting about the villains of My Hero Academia. A lot of people say that one of the weaker elements of My Hero Academia is the villains, but I would say, well, the journey wasn't really about the villains. It was more about the heroes anyway.
But
Um,
a hero must be always as good as his villain.
yeah. Um, obviously, like people can point to stories like The Dark Knight, where they balance the screen time of the hero and the villain to see, okay, how much of an opposing force they are to each other.
Wait, actually, after the next arc is actually going to be the villain arc. Going to get more development to the villains.
Of season 5.
No, of all the villains. Yeah, of season 5, the villains are going to get their arc.
Right.
But I think that All for One is underrated. I think that All for One is actually a really menacing and actually here's how to make a good villain. Okay, you have to have visions and actions. A vision and actions. You have to have vision either for what you want, and you gotta do actions to prove that you can match with your vision. Here's what compare that to Fire Lord Osai. What do we really know about him? What do we know about him? What do we know anything about him? Anything at all? What do he want? His daughter wanted to burn down the nation, and then oh wait, that's what I want, so I'll just burn down the nation, and then I lose. Well, All for One literally killed so many people and took their quirks, and also turned people into nomus, into like monstrosities, and also, but did one good thing by saving Chigaraki from being alone and afraid in the world, and took him in as his own son, surrogate son. So that's where, but also it's even more malicious. It's also evil because he's the grandson of All Might's predecessor, and doing that is just so haunting, and that smile is just so you just want to kill this guy. You just want to is I swear he's such a good villain, and I swear he has a very basic. His mask looks cool, but it may look basic. He might have a tuxedo, and it's not just about the style. It's not always about the style. It's actually tuxedos are stylish, and 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 about Chigasaki, aka Overhaul. He sees that the world is full of quirks of people who have unimaginable powers, and think that can be actually dangerous, and that can actually, people can destroy each other with it. But here's the problem with that. People will kill each other with the quirks or without it. We still have nuclear bombs. We still have we'll find another way. So I feel like it's inevitable that his plan would fail.
Thanos would be smiling at you right now. This does put a smile on his face. um, Yeah, already mentioned Stain earlier. He only makes an appearance in the end of season, season 2 in general, but he leaves an impact. On not just the heroes, but how the villains think and perceive each other. Stain leaves as much an impact where Shigaraki goes out for a walk and try to locate and find Deku, risking getting caught himself just to have a talk on, okay, how does Stain do that? How can someone who's similar to me have much more of an impact than I do? And Deku, through the conversation, said, "Well, he had a motivation. He had an ideology. Ah, right. Thanks, kid. Great talk. I'm gonna go away. Next time, I'm gonna kill you. Bye." So.
And here's the thing about you don't always have to have your hero have a connection with the villain, but you can have opposing views with the villain, and that's kind of the point. You have to have different ideologies. It's not people always want the hero. So what? Hero didn't meet each other, or like they never did. Adolf Hitler and Churchill ever meet with each other? No, but we know each other's opposing views, right?
Yes. Very.
And that's the important thing. Their ideologies, their history, philosophy, art. I'm getting that from Thrawn.
It's just that in season 1 or like the first half of season 2, you're not going to get much villain development. But if you keep watching, you're going to get some more in-depth villains who really challenge the heroes in various ways.
To defeat an enemy, you must know them.
Yes. I'm just thinking, what about the villains and all the spin-offs and the movies? I wonder if we should bring them in to the conversation.
Well, they are kind of like just one-off villains. They're just like basically like villains that cardboard cutouts. And actually, the first movie was basically a homage to Die Hard.
Yeah, so it was.
Yippee-ki-yay plus Ultra.
Short the glass. The second one was definitely more powerful and almost akin to All For One himself, and I could think of him like personality-wise, he's basically the villain from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, as it were.
Yeah, I think that's accurate.
But certainly an intimidating power to really think, okay, we got to take this guy down. It leads to a really, really amazing finale.
Actually, it does remind me of like this kid wants to, give himself up, but Deku doesn't want to give him up. It kind of reminds me of We Don't Trade Lives in Avengers Infinity War.
Influencing future generations. Deku's whole ambition is that he's not doing it for his own sake. He wants to bring smiles to other people's faces. You could definitely see that virtue as he interacts with other people, with the children from that movie, Heroes Rising, as well as Eri, the girl he rescues from Overhaul with the assistance of Mirio. But even after they rescue Eri, she's still haunted by her captivity, so they put on a party to cheer her up, which is threatened by another villain who was trying to seek attention, but Deku managed to get there on time and even get her a nice toffee apple.
Here's the thing. Me and Calm, both would never in years, if we heard about a superhero rock concert. Remember what Mark Hamill said when that guy asked him, "What did you want in a Star Wars movie? Musical numbers? There's something seriously wrong with you." And that's what we both say to him. If someone asked us if they would want a superhero concert in a superhero thing, but they managed to pull it off. Even though some people might think it's cringy, some people are thinking like that, but in our opinions, they managed to pull it off, and especially with the nuance of actually making that girl smile again.
Yeah, it was so sweet. Can't help but smile myself at that scene.
Yeah, I did too.
Future generation. That's another bit that makes. Oh, there was also the other kid Deku met at the summer camp who he protected as well. That was another kid who initially punched him in the balls, but
Ooh.
yeah, that's kind of hurt. But eventually, Deku showed him that heroes can be worthy of admiration.
And that's what I love about this, because Deku like saves kids and makes them smile, and makes them happy, and makes it really is wholesome. And it's genuinely good, and I this really is a genuine superhero, and also superhero like thing. Like it's genuinely superhero, because I feel like that there was this one time in the Superman comic, like it was All Star Superman, where basically Superman like turned this girl away from suicide and then basically hugged her and said it's okay. And that's kind of like what Deku did with Eri after she was basically like tortured and basically child like trafficking, and basically saved her from that and make her smile again.
Fantastic. Absolutely.
So do we have anything else to talk about? How many minutes are we on?
Let's see. We're on 49 minutes.
Okay, I think we can stop here.
All right, so I think we should come to an overall conclusion. So, these new shows, new as in recent, as of recording this, My Hero Academia and Invincible, they're taking the superhero genre to some new heights, as it were. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I love it. And yeah, it's fantastic. It's really, and you know what? Superheroes have been getting a little stale across the decades because it's been going on for like 80 years or 90 years.
Years, gosh, they're almost.
Especially with Marvel DC. It's fresh to have something that's not Marvel DC.
Well, DC. All it takes is some creative thinking to really get the superhero genre going. Like, think about it. There are other possibilities. Like, you could have historical time periods. Think about that. That concept alone. Historical superheroes. I'm just saying.
Yeah, there's already World War II. Like, why not the feudal Japan, or like the revolution, or like, or you could do it in the future in sci-fi, or even in space. Oh wait, they already did that with Green Lanterns.
But basically, there's a lot of potential. You just need to keep thinking creatively and tell a story that's worth having the setting of characters for. Yeah, having it worth telling. I mean, as of right now, the MCU's currently doing their fourth phase. At first, I was thinking they don't need to keep going like this, but their miniseries so far on Disney Plus are actually really good. So I now say, okay, as long as you keep making good stories, by all means, keep going.
All right. I think that's good time for today.
Yes.
Hope guys like this video, leave a comment if you did. Remember, it is Squid with y'all. Peace out, guys.
Is that how it goes? The squid be with you?
Sure, that's sure. Good. Okay.
Anyway, I'm stopping it.